Hello YouTube, it's me, Berry, and I'm here with my August wrap-up. I know this is late, so I'm going to get right into it, but before I do, I just want to say if you hear any noises, it's people outside. I'm in New York now, so the streets are very noisy, the walls are very thin, so you gotta bear with me because it is very loud here, and it's gonna take me a while to figure out how to actually film here. So anyway, I'm gonna get into my August wrap-up. If I do look down, it's because I'm reading off of a paper. I want this to go very quick so that way I can edit it very quickly and post it very quickly because this is 2 months overdue. So, general statistics. In August, I read 8 books. 8 were physical, 0 were ebook. 7 were from the library, and I owned 1. It was my mom, so I just borrowed it from her. 4 of the books were written by male authors, and 4 were by female. Again, I'm pretty happy with the equal genders of the authors. As for genres, I read 1 autobiography / historical fiction. I read 2 science nonfictions, which you'll see that's kind of a theme within the past 2 months. August and September is what I mean. I read 2 fantasy novels. I read 1 self-help nonfiction, 1 romantic fantasy, and then 1 contemporary. As for the reading level, I read 1 children's / middle grade. I read 3 YA, and I read 4 adults, and I'm pretty proud of this because, again, I don't really read many adult books, so having it be the top reading level that I read was very good. I'm proud of myself. Publishing dates, I had 0 from the 1800s, 0 from the pre-1800s, 3 from the 1900s, 0 from the 2000s, and 5 from the 2010s. I'm pretty disappointed in this area. I kind of want a little bit more variety, but I'm hoping to work on that in the next couple of months. I don't know how well I'll be doing because in October I want to read more thrillers and horror and suspense, so I feel like I'll be reading more recent reads as well. But I don't know, hopefully I'll get some older novels. As for ratings, I gave 0 5 stars, 3 4 stars, 4 3 stars, 1 2 star, and 0 1 star. So it was a pretty average reading month. As for the total pages that I've read during the month of August, it was 2,700 pages, which is like really weird that it's a very even number, but I don't know, it just happened that way. And if you do the math, it averages about to 87 pages a day. So those are my general statistics for the month of August. Let's get into actual books. So the first book I read was The First 4 Years by Laura Ingalls Wilder. This is the 8th and final book in her Little House on the Prairie series that she has written herself. It's a little different with this book, and I'll get into this in a little bit, but there are other series that have been written by other people about Laura's life, but this was the last one written by her. Now, I say written because she did not finish this book. She died before she could, so this is mostly just a compilation of her notes, so it's very unedited, and you can really tell when you're reading it that it's not really finished or doesn't have the same tone as some of her other books in the series, the previous books in the series. Because of that, this was my least favorite book. It just seems so pessimistic, which I have to say, a lot of the things that took place during this time that she's recounting were awful. But she usually finds a way to kind of twist it to make it more positive, so I think that's something she would have done if she had time to edit it before she died, but obviously that didn't happen. Because of this, part of me kind of wish I did not read this book, but at the same time I'm kind of glad I did, so I don't know. It really depends on your feelings if you want to read all of them, but I don't know. I might continue on with the other series that have to do with her life that have been written by other people, but I'm not sure. It's not a high priority for me right now. So overall, I gave this a B+ rating. Again, this was my least favorite in the Little House on the Prairie series, but I do really enjoy this series, and I think everybody should read it because it gives you great insight into a period of time that is just so amazing how people live. So I think everybody should read the series. The second book I read was The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. This was on my list, I think, of books I wanted to read in the summer of 2017. So if you don't know, this is a epic fantasy novel where the magic is kind of revolving around light. And I have to say, I can't picture in my mind how the magic system actually appears. I don't know, it just wasn't described, I think, very well in order for you to get a mind's eye view of what the magic looks like. Also, I didn't really like any of the characters. All of them are flawed, and not in a good uplifting way. They're just all awful people, and I just did not like them at all. It was also very boring for the majority of the book. This book is over 600 pages long, so you want something that long to grip you. It didn't happen in this, and you can say or argue that it's because it has to do a lot of world building. This is an epic fantasy, so it's obviously going to need a lot of time spent on different aspects of the world. However, the way that's done is very incohesive. Even though we're following mostly a character who's kind of getting introduced into the higher society of the people who have the magic or can use the magic, he already knows the basics about the system, and we don't therefore learn with him how it is, so we kind of just get bits and pieces throughout the book, and it's not really nicely done. I do have to say the last 50 pages of this book were super interesting, and for that I might continue reading the series, but again, it's not a very high priority for me. Overall, I did give this a D. Again, it's just, there are a lot of things that I did not like about it, and even though the last 50 pages did make me want to read the next book, it's still not anywhere close to becoming one of my favorite series. The third book I read was The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. This has been cropping up all over YouTube, and especially in like the beauty or fashion communities on YouTube, because it's supposed to help you declutter your lifestyle. So I wanted to see what it was about and if it actually did help, because I am a hoarder. Like, I'm awful with hoarding stuff. I put sentimental value on like everything, and for that reason it's hard for me to like part with things. So I wanted to see if this would help me at all, or just at the very least help me clean, because when I got back home from studying in Scotland for 4 years, I had a lot of shit, and I needed to kind of see what I wanted to keep, what I needed to keep, and what could I just didn't need anymore and just could throw away. So I was hoping this would help me. Now, a lot of the things in this book are very common sense things, but there are some nice points that she does raise that you kind of need to be told, even though you know that's a part of cleaning. It just helps when someone else tells you that that's what you need to do. One thing that I kind of am wary about is her main point of keeping things only if they spark joy for you. I find that very impractical. So, for example, like, you need business clothes, and I know people probably don't like business clothes that much, but you gotta keep them because you have to work. And then again, like I said, I'm very sentimental, so I keep things because they have, like, they make me feel good. They might not give me joy when I wear it, but I still love it so much that I have to keep it. It seems like a very overwhelming process, because the way she says for you to go about cleaning is to just like really just take everything in your house, every item, and just like put it into different categories and then do it from there. But that's really overwhelming. I would not be able to spend a whole day just cleaning. One, I'm allergic to dust, and no matter what I'm doing, even if it's clean, like just working with clothes, which you shouldn't think would have a lot of dust, I just get sniffly and like congested headaches, and it's just not a fun time. So I would not be able to spend a whole day just cleaning. So I don't know how practical that is for the everyday person. Also, she did not mention actually cleaning, like vacuuming, sanitizing, mopping, or anything like that. She just basically is telling you how to declutter and organize the stuff that you keep. So I think that is kind of an important step that she should have reiterated, even though everybody knows that you have to clean once you like take stuff out and like sort through things you're going to keep and not. I just think it would have been nice to have something like that in there. I can't say if it really works or not. Yes, it did put me in the mood to clean, but I didn't actually execute that, so I don't know. For that reason, I gave it a C+. If I actually do get to cleaning and use this method, I'll let you guys know if I have any different thoughts or anything, but for now, it's okay. The fourth book I read was the Remnant Chronicles, The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. Again, this is a book that I've heard hyped on BookTube, and I wanted to see how I felt about it. Now, this is a romantic fantasy novel, and I'm not into romances at all, but I thought this premise was kind of intriguing. There's two male figures or characters that are kind of trying to get to this princess, and one of them is an assassin, the other is a prince, and you don't know really which one is which. And I thought that was pretty intriguing and adds an element of mystery to it that I think makes the romance less strictly romance, so that I did enjoy. I tried guessing who was which, like which character was the assassin and which was the prince, and I got it wrong. So I mean, any book that kind of stumped me like that I will enjoy, so I did really like that. And like I said, this romance, I actually enjoyed it. I'm usually not a person for strict romance novels. I usually prefer romance to be like in the background or to be a subplot in a book, but it was the main plot in this one and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a B, which again is pretty good for romance novels. The 5th book I read was A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. Now, I do enjoy science. I took a lot of science classes in high school. Of course, I didn't take them in college because I went right into my major, which is like an art history, or not art history, a Master of Arts or humanities and that kind of stuff. So I haven't really done science since then, but I'm still intrigued with different scientific things, so I wanted to pick up the most known, I think, scientific novel there is, which is Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time. So this talks about different aspects of astrophysics and, let's see, particularly like black holes. It's been a while since I read this, so I don't really remember that much, which should tell you something. It wasn't very accessible, and that was something Stephen Hawking said he wanted to do. He wanted to provide information about astrophysicists to the average Joe. He did not, I think, simplify what he was talking about enough, or he did not explain certain theories enough for everybody to understand. And again, that's coming from someone who used to do science, like quite a bit of science in high school. That was a couple of years ago, so I might have just forgotten it, but I'm kind of maybe very slightly above like the average Joe who's done like very minimal science. I was interested in this. I wish, again, there was more explanation so I can fully wrap my head around different concepts, but there was like a lack of true in-depth explanation of what different theories were, and also there were very few, there were figures, graphs, diagrams, pictures, but I don't think there were enough. As well, he did include a glossary, but it was more of like a dictionary at the end of the book, and I didn't find that very helpful. For one, I just don't like using glossaries. I'm a lazy reader, so I just want all the information on the page where it's pertinent. I don't want to have to flip back and forth to get an understanding, because by the time I flip to the back of the book, I'll forget what I was looking for, then go back, and then it's just not good. I do have to say that from this book, it's just amazing how much math and science relates to theology and philosophy, which I've kind of been reading a lot of books that have been kind of juxtaposing those two ideas and how they actually really do mesh well together. And again, it also wanted me to learn more, especially it made me interested in the long-ass question of why or how we exist. And I didn't get any answers, because there is no real answer yet. If there was, I think we'd all know about it, but I just want knowledge. I wanted to have all the knowledge, and that this book really kind of reignited that for me. I did give it a C+ again because it wasn't very accessible, but it was enjoyable. The 6th book I read was Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. Again, this was another popular booktube book that came out very recently, so I was surprised I was able to get this from my library. If you don't know, this book follows two different perspectives, one of them of which is of a young man who is a librarian who then explores some mythical land that everybody thought didn't exist anymore. And then the second perspective is from someone who's kind of lived in that mythological world for ages and seeing how this kind of curse affects both that person who's lived there but is not like an actual citizen, and how the citizens there deal with that curse, which that part we learned from the librarian who's been allowed to go there and explore. I did really like that plot. It's a librarian, someone who likes to read or research and just have knowledge. Most of it, though, was predictable. Like, it kind of has the trope where there's a chosen one, and it's someone who came from like very poor beginnings, and then after a while they're the chosen one, so they have everything now. They're just so important. But there was one thing that kind of threw me for a loop, and I'm not going to tell you about it because it's very spoilery, but the ending I did not see coming, and that's why I enjoyed it a little bit more. I did not like the writing style though. It was very just disjointed because of the two perspectives. Now usually if you do multiple perspectives, I can't talk, it can mesh well, but just the way these two perspectives were used, I did not really enjoy it. However, I would continue on with the series. I am very interested to see how it turns out. That being said, I did give it a C+ rating, so it wasn't the best, but it was a little bit above like a meh grade. So the 7th book I read is another science nonfiction novel, and that is Stephen Hawking's Reader's Companion. Now that's not the real title. The title is a lot longer. I'll have it up here as I usually do. But this was not what I expected. I thought this was going to go more into the different theories that were mentioned in A Brief History of Time. That's not the case. This was described as the book for the movie on a book. So this just had a lot of like letters or just information from other people within Stephen Hawking's life during the time that he wrote or came up with his black hole theory. So because of that, it wasn't 100% focused on the theories, but when it was, I did enjoy that other scientists and mathematicians had explained their own input or contributions to what led to Stephen Hawking's theory. So I did like that. Other than that, it was a pretty meh book. I liked it slightly more than A Brief History of Time. I gave this a C+. The 8th and final book I read was Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin O'Leary Sands. Again, this is another popular booktube book, and I wanted to see if I would enjoy it. I think this is classified as a contemporary, but it happened, or it occurs, or is set during the 1980s or 70s or something like that, so it's not really contemporary to our time now, but it's still kind of dealing with everyday life. This is primarily focused on the friendship of two boys during summer, really, but then it does lead to a gay relationship. And I have to say, unlike Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda, which I think did not handle LGBT representation very well, I loved this one. As contemporaries go, this is not my favorite. I think that goes to The Perks of Being a Wallflower, but this is one that I can actually tolerate, which does not happen very often, because I don't like romance being in the forefront, whether it be heterosexual romance, homosexual romance, or anything else. I don't want that to be pushed into my face. This, though, made that relationship so enjoyable because it started out as a friendship and then it evolved into a relationship, and I love it when books do that rather than just have it be pushed. And also, I don't like it when people push the sexuality of characters into the reader's face. I much prefer that the character not be defined by that sexual classification, but that just happens to be a part of who they are. It's not the whole part of who they are, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I did really enjoy this. I gave it a B-. Again, not an awful contemporary novel, but again, it wasn't the best. It was good, though. I do really like this book, and I might continue on with the second book because apparently there's a second book. I didn't know this was a series. Yeah, overall I did enjoy it, which is kind of unexpected for my reading taste. So yeah, that was my August reading wrap-up. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be coming out with my September wrap-up hopefully next week, and then hopefully I'll be back on track with wrap-ups and I'll get them out on time instead of 2 months behind schedule. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.